Ibrahim Traore led a coup against a government that was subservient to its foreign masters. There's been many, many coups across the continent, but usually those just replaced one neo-colonial agent with another, usually. But Ibrahim Traore is different. He's not just changing the government. He is uprooting the whole system of neo-colonial domination, and he's succeeding. He's understood what many people have failed to grasp, which is that independence is meaningless if you don't sever the control of the owners and controllers of global financialized capital. He's understood that security is a myth as long as it depends on the military patronage of your former colonizers. And he's understood that sovereignty is impossible under the shadow of Western tutelage. He's not merely a head of state. Ibrahim Traore is the revolutionary archetype of the 21st century.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren and I'm Maureen. So in today's episode, you're going to be listening to a white professor who's going to be talking to us about why the global West fears Ibrahim Traore and why they deem him as a threat. Right, we've all been seeing what's been happening in Africa concerning Ibrahim Traore, and as we speak, even the general, the very famous General Langley, was sent to first Ivory Coast and then he came for tour, I guess, in Kenya. So let's watch what the professor had to say and then we come back and talk about it. Let us know also what you think about this episode in the comment section and we'll come back and talk about it.
Why are the Americans threatening Burkina Faso? Why is Trump going to back for the French and going after this guy? Why is the head of the U.S. AFRICOM, the Africa Command, talking about the need to secure Burkina Faso's resources? This guy is the boogeyman to European imperialism. He's a young black African Muslim Marxist who is digging out the French deep state in Africa. French colonialism never ended in Africa. The French have a very effective deep state in Africa. Through the banking system, through fake ownership of the natural resources of Africa, they have been able to maintain economic and political and military control over much of their former colonies. Most of the wealth of France is still stolen from Africa. The gold that fills their banks, the uranium that powers their metropolis, all of this is looted from Africa. When they pulled out, they installed a deep state with corrupt rulers that they could pay off in order to get resources for practically nothing. And Traore is ending that system.
He was forged in the reality of Western-backed insurgency and Western economic warfare and propaganda. Because, today the fight for freedom is not just waged by armies anymore, but by narratives and by resource policies and by alliances and by collective sovereignty. Traore has made the choice to look towards Russia and Turkey and towards other new centers of power in the multipolar world. That's strategic, not because they're perfect allies, but because he recognizes the necessity of breaking the Western stranglehold on Burkina Faso. This is pragmatism in service to principle. This again is the methodology of Middle Nation. It's engagement without submission, cooperation without subjugation. It's trade-offs without selling out. He also understands, crucially, that Africa's liberation cannot be rented from outside. It has to be rooted in the reclamation of Africa's own wealth. His moves to exert control over Burkina Faso's gold, building indigenous defense capacity and food sovereignty, these aren't just political decisions. These are acts of civilizational self-respect. It's a declaration that Africa's children will no longer be bled dry for the enrichment of Western imperial capital. We see Ibrahim Traore as a brother, not simply because of his faith, but also because of his fight. Because he embodies the spirit of the Quranic guidance to stand firmly for justice, even if it is against your own selves, even if it is against those who are in power, and even if it is against the odds. Burkina Faso isn't just a battleground today for the Burkinabe people. It's the front line in a global struggle for liberation. What Ibrahim Traore is doing is echoing in the Sahel, in Niger, in Mali, across Africa, across the Ummah, across the global South, and across the world. Every oppressed people around the world can now look to Burkina Faso and to Ibrahim Traore and say liberation looks like it's actually possible. But obviously, the global order trembles at the prospect that anyone is going to follow his example. They're afraid of his courage and his clarity and his defiance in the face of Western power and Western threats, and they should be afraid of that. They should tremble because they know the jig is up. But we know that when they get scared, they get dangerous. And Ibrahim Traore is under severe threat. There's already been something like 20 attempts on his life since coming to power. They just stopped a coup from happening last week, organized by the Americans and by the French, right there in the French embassy. Because a free Africa is just something that old wolf can't take. You know, they've been keeping Africa in the past for so long that they know that if they let Africa get away from them, then they're going to be the ones who are consigned to history. The chains that have been holding Africa down all this time are also the only things holding the West up. So now America has said that they want to arrest him. You know, they've already tried to take him out more than once, like I said. Now they're trying to smear him. They're trying to attack him. They sent the head of AFRICOM to the Ivory Coast a couple of days ago, which is a neighbor of Burkina Faso and which is known to have allegedly, anyway, participated in the killing of Thomas Sankara. Allegedly, they participated in the coups or helped to organize the coups against coup attempts against Ibrahim Traore. And the Western sycophantic leader that was overthrown by Ibrahim Traore is in exile in the Ivory Coast right now. So they're getting ready for something. Understand, Ibrahim Traore isn't just fighting insurgents and militants in the desert. No. Every time he has to meet with some Western diplomat or politician or ambassador, he's fighting that same enemy. They're just wearing a suit and tie and meeting in some conference room or some embassy somewhere. But it's the same enemy that he's fighting in the desert. He doesn't have a meeting with any Western official except it's a kind of combat. Imagine. The same ones that are smiling at you or from across the table, those are the same ones who are also paying mercenaries to kill you. Listen, this is important. Burkina Faso is important. Ibrahim Traore is important for everyone, not just for Africans, not just for the Burkinabes. This isn't about idolizing the man. It's about understanding the importance of what he represents. And what he represents is a paradigmatic shift that the whole world needs. You understand me? The OCGFC have been on a path of power consolidation for decades, accumulating more and more power in fewer and fewer hands, and leaving almost nothing beyond their control. We are in a struggle against this consolidation. Do you understand? It's a struggle for decentralization. That's the essence of it. That's what multipolarity is. It's decentralization. We need to pursue, protect, and preserve variance. They don't want there to be any options. They don't want there to be any divergence, any independence. But see, they built their power structure initially on the assumption that American power would last forever. Now they're understanding that they have to recalibrate. They need to transition. It's like they built one of those Jenga towers on a kitchen table, and now they have to relocate it. They have to move that tower all the way across town without it falling apart. Because now you have to move to the global south. It's a completely different terrain than what they're used to. So they're going to try to eliminate as many variables as they can to try to manage this transition so they come out on the top. Because they don't want their tower to fall apart. But if their tower falls apart, that is liberatory for everyone on this planet. Burkina Faso, as I say, represents decentralization. It represents variance. It represents a threat to the power consolidation. They see Ibrahim Traore as a glitch in their system. But their system is a virus on humanity. Burkina Faso represents not only the promise of African liberation, but liberation for all of us. And the instinct for liberation is not a bug in the human software. It's a feature. So everyone should do whatever they can, and we should all do all we can to try to defend and protect Ibrahim Traore. Because wallahi, this is a matter of self-defense. Ibrahim Traore isn't simply a political figure. He's a turning point.
So guys, welcome back. As we've heard the professor say, I think for the most part, Africa has always had bad leaders, and when Ibrahim Traore came up, I think most people didn't know what to do with him, especially leaders from the West, and he took African continent by storm, and this is why, for the most part, the African continent, at least the citizens of different countries, support Ibrahim Traore. And this is why he is supported by most Africans, because Africans saw in him what leaders hadn't shown Africans in a very long time. He was incorruptible, and he was actually showing progressiveness, and he was bringing development to his country. Yeah, I bet when he was first coming to power after he had dethroned the previous sitting president, I think the West underestimated him, and at some point they even thought they could buy him off, because we had seen allegations of people who had gone into Burkina Faso from the West, of course, trying to bribe him, and when that failed, they tried to bribe members of his staff, and this is just to say, if a lot of African leaders could have integrity like Ibrahim Traore, because I don't feel like it's surprising that a person like Ibrahim Traore was able to make black people across all nations speak one language. He was able to make every black person come together and have an understanding. And I feel like this is because he stood in his own moral grounds, and he stood for what was right, because it could have been easy for him to be just a sellout leader, just like the others who dethrone and then come into power for personal gains. When they see the big dollars, in big bags, they take it and do as the West commands them to do. But not Ibrahim Traore. He looks at a situation where he aims to provide a better future, not only for his country, but if he could spread that across all African nations, I know he would. Only that, even I as an African, I know that he needs to face huge oppositions, especially from leaders who are, for example, leaders like our own, the country where I come from, who still serve the interests of the West. Right. And why would you think that this professor said that the global West generally is afraid of Ibrahim Traore? I don't feel like it is a military kind of talk, but the kind of actions that Ibrahim Traore is doing, because the West likes when Africa is asleep, but through the eyes of Traore, Africans saw that they could do better in terms of leaderships. Africans saw that projects could be maintained in Africa without too much help from the West, because when you look at Ibrahim Traore's works, it only took him 2 years to completely finish the debt that was in the country and to start development, some developments that hadn't been seen in Burkina Faso for quite a long time. Right. It takes courage for a leader to stand up like Ibrahim Traore and face his enemy face to face, and it takes courage for such a leader to reject something that you've been told and it has been drilled into you that is good for you, but it's not. For example, what am I talking about? When Ibrahim Traore refused donations from IMF, to take a loan from the IMF, and he refused to take money from the UAE, and he's proving that he's doing it all on his own. With a good plan, he can, and there's also that thing, something that the professor talked about. He said that the worst thing for Africa is the best thing for the West. If you can just take a minute to let those words simmer, the worst thing for Africa is the best thing for the US. This is because if Africa is suffering, America or any other Western country is thriving, because the moment the West starts to take, let's say, for example, minerals from Africa and pay the fair price, that means that Africa economically, it's going to grow, and it's going to reach a point where Africans don't need the West. Africans dictate what is to happen, what is not to happen, and that is the thing they don't want. Black power, let's for example take a look at China. Chinese, at some point, they were treated like, I guess, these other third world countries, until they decided it's not going to happen anymore. They also want to become a superpower country, and right now America cannot come and just flex muscles with China, because picture this, there was that time when America was threatening China, and they moved their warships to a place where the Chinese government did not want that, and the Chinese government dared to move their own ships to tell America that if you try something, if you try anything at all, we are here, we are watching, and we are ready. So right now America cannot bully China China. Right now, no other nation, not England, not any other nation can bully China because they worked themselves to the top. And right now, they also get to dictate when it comes to world trade, when it comes to world economics, when it comes to anything, you name it. There was the other day that China and America were into trade wars. The President Trump was throwing this and the Chinese government was retaliating. It got to a place where it became ridiculous. But the only reason why the Chinese government can be able to do that is because they raised their government, they raised their military, and they raised their citizens to such a place where even if Chinese people abroad in America or those countries that are predominantly white are being discriminated against, it's not the same. You cannot compare them to an African or any other black person. And why is this? And why am I talking about this? Because the moment that Africa gets power, Africa will get to dictate what happens on the global stage of when it comes to business, when it comes to trades, when it comes to economics. And this will only happen when, and to be honest, I don't know how this is going to be possible, but it's only going to happen when Africa also decides to grow and do what the first world countries are doing. That is, for example, working on its military reinforcement. If you don't want to be bullied, put a strong person in front of you to protect you if you can't fight yourself. And that means protect yourself economically, protect yourself military-wise, protect yourself, empower your citizens such that when they go to other nations, they're not looked down upon. You know, look at how they treat African leaders when you're on a world stage. Just the other day, African leaders just gloriously marched themselves to go to attend the burial of the Pope. How were they treated? They were snubbed by the other world leaders. They were just looking like bodyguards to the other presidential parties that were there. And why is this? Because there's no respect whatsoever that is granted to the African nations, and it begins with their leaders. The moment they stop being greedy, the moment they stop being selfish, the moment they start working towards the betterment of their own nation, I feel like that is when Africa as a whole nation, Africa as one, is gonna be treated with respect. Right, and right now, Ibrahim Traore is a very easy pickings to the West because he seems to be alone, the only leader who's trying to do the right things. But can you imagine if the whole of Africa, the political class that is, if they were to stand with Ibrahim Traore, then it would be more difficult for them to be attacked, and hence the global West would be looking for fair trade deals and just deals in general that respect the African people and give money to both them and the African people. But as of right now, I feel like Ibrahim Traore has been made easy pickings because he is one of the very few good men who are trying to change the narrative of Africa. Right, guys, I don't know what you have to say about this, but I think my parting shot would be the West has a reason to be scared, and they should be scared because right now we only have 3 countries in Africa that are pushing back against their pre-colonizers, yeah? That is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. So can you picture a whole Africa reacting the way these 3 nations did? It's gonna be like literally the West depends on Africa for literally everything, you know. So you could say for instance, for them to breathe, they need oxygen from Africa. I don't mean it literally, if you know what I mean. No, so they have reason to be scared, you know. Right. My parting shot is no man is an island, of course. And that being said, and Ibrahim Traore has shown his hand where he stands. I just hope that the West will meet him halfway and give him fair trade deals, you know, without any nefarious planning on the back door, you know, and be genuine with African leaders when they come to a negotiating table, because eventually it might not happen today, it might not happen in 10 years, but eventually Africa is destined to rise, because right now as it is, most African youths are seeing what is going on in the global stage, and most of them are able to discern for themselves if a certain country comes to deal with a particular country in Africa. Are they coming with fair deals, or are they coming with, you know, heavy shoes to step on the people's toes of Africa? Yeah. Guys, let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, and we'll see you on our next episode. As usual, we want to thank you so much for catching us on this one.